When Robbie met Bobby. Robbie Vincent talks to Bobby Womack on Jazz FM.
Even Bobby Womack knows that Robbie Vincent has essential rhythms.
Bobby Womack with Robbie Vincent on Jazz FM. Bobby talks about fallen idols.
And one commitment I made to myself, I said, I will never prostitute my talent ever again. I said, because I'm doing it for the Marvins, I'm doing it for the Jackie, I'm doing it for the Sam Cooke, I'm doing it for Wilson Pickett. And I said, all of these people, Otis Redding, I said, all of them didn't overdose. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, yeah. But they were all friends of mine before anybody recognized them. Across 110th Street, pimps trying to catch a...
Robbie Vincent talks to Bobby Womack exclusively on Jazz FM. Bobby on James Brown.
He said, where you guys come from? He said, what a bunch of sissies. That's what he was saying, because we had our hair long. And he was saying, man, and so I told him, I said, man, I was talking to somebody else, and he was trying to tell us, you always take a bow. When somebody come out, you go back out. I said, but we ain't got but one song. He said, don't matter. Looking for a love, go back out. So he was telling us like that. He said, but it's the stupidest I've ever seen in my life. When it comes to your loving, so when
Robbie met Bobby.
The whole thing makes a soul singer. I say it's being able to reach other souls. I say everybody has that, from Mick Jagger to Aretha Franklin. I say they connect. And inherit the will. Oh, you wanna try it, my friend. And I say, what about the audience that stood behind me all the way up to this point? I said, I can't overlook them. I'd be overlooking myself, too. You know, and I said, these people want to hear my history, and that is part of my history. And so if the other guys wanted to play electronics and stuff like that, I said, y'all can do that. But the only thing that ain't electronic is my voice and my spirit.
Hi, it's Robbie Vincent, and over the next 3 Sundays, as promised, you're going to get a chance to hear a mixture of Bobby Womack interviews that I've recorded over the last 18 months. We'll flip between the one that I made at the Jazz FM studios in 2011 and one we did last November at the Royal Gardens Hotel in Kensington just after his 2 sellout London shows. And as you probably know, Bobby hasn't been very well at all over the past 12 months, and I was obviously keen to get an update on his health. So the first thing I asked him when we met recently was, how was he?
It's hard to say. It's because I get very angry every day. Sometimes when I wake up, it has something to do with the medicine that I have to take, you know. And carry a person with me, I have to have a nurse 24 hours.
We should make it plain, you've been very seriously ill. I mean, you've had
I was in a coma 14 days. And the only thing was keeping me alive was the machine. You know, and so when I came out, it was like learning to feel and touch all over again. I mean, for real. And I said, I can't believe that. You know, or a few days I was doing an interview, and all of a sudden I mentioned Damon's name, and I couldn't think of his last name, you know. And at the same time, you're on TV, you gotta be cool. You know, you can't just explode. So, you know, and then there's days come up that says it's gonna be a great day today. So I just feel totally alive, you know. And the doctors always say, one day at a time. Used to not mean that to me. One day at a time, man, I'll be up and running like I used to do.
So to sum up, since we last chatted, are you a one day at a time man?
Yeah, I'm a one day at a time because I'm very critical of myself. I'm always critical about what made it so long for that to register. Why did my legs start to bother me when I went on stage? Or my balance started to go off, you know? And I said, I can't deal with that one day at a time. This is now, you know? But you have to deal with it. So I learned how to work under that where I don't think people really notice it. Only I notice it. But it's a wrestle. I was the third brother of five, doing whatever I had to do to survive. I'm not saying what I did was alright. Trying to break out of the ghetto was a day-to-day fight. Being down so long, yet nothing didn't cross my mind. But I knew there was a better way of life, and I was just trying to find. You don't know what you do till you put under pressure. Across 110th Street is a hell of a tester. Across 110th Street, pimps trying to catch a woman that's weak. Across 110th Street, pushers won't let the junkie go free. Across 110th Street, woman trying to catch a trick on the street. You bet it. Across 110th Street, you can find it all in the street. One more thing I'd like to talk to you about right now. Hey brother, there's a better way out. Shorting that coke, shooting that dope, man, you're copping out. Take my advice, it's either live or die. You got to be strong. This is Robbie Vincent. This week, next week and the week after, we're talking with Bobby Womack on Jazz FM. As you know, he's been quite ill, but what you may not know is that Bobby's dad was a strict religious disciplinarian who wasn't pleased about him recording secular music. So what I wanted to know was if that passion of the church has stuck with him through the most terrible times. It did stick with me. I was just amazed that when I started to make those changes in life, I remember my mom saying, I don't care how many hit records you have. She said, don't never forget the bridge that brought you over. She said, if you get to a point you're ashamed to call on Jesus, she said, you're in trouble. Because she said, he'll be there when you ain't there for yourself. So when I got to that stage, I wanted to sing gospel songs, and I felt that should be in my performance.
Right.
And one commitment I made to myself, I said, I will never prostitute my talent ever again. I said, because I'm doing it for the Marvins, I'm doing it for the Jackie, I'm doing it for the Sam Cooke, I'm doing it for Wilson Pickett. And I said, all of these people, Otis Redding, I said, all of them didn't overdose. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, yeah. But they were all friends of mine before anybody recognized them. You know, people always say, man, what's it like working with Janis? It's just like working with anybody. We're trying to figure out how we're going to eat the next day. I say, but you guys are already tripping out about the stars. So y'all late. I seen them long time ago.
You touched on that, and we mustn't forget that passion, music, writing, love, performing, and the drug, the adrenaline drug that performing is, we still got to pay our rent. And I have often wondered how poor you were around about the time that the Stones did It's All Over Now. How poor were you? Because I know that Sam Cooke sent a car down and you drove up and left your dad. And
I was poor.
Tell me how poor. I want to meet
I was poor. Yeah, to cut it short. But I will tell you, with It's All Over Now, I never seen a dime from it. Okay? And the song sold tons. And Sam was passed away. Then the barber sold it to APCO for $500,000. That's a disgrace. And I used to tell her, I said, I'm telling you, that's everything he worked for. That's all he got. You know. But she said, yeah, but they're not going to be recording the songs 5 years from now. I said, you kidding me? I said, they'll be recording them more. It's like Bill Withers cut all them records, and I was trying to get him out. Because his wife was telling me, Bill sits and watches TV all day. He goes in the studio, but he doesn't like the business. So I said, yeah, but she said, maybe you talking to him, we have lunch. And I say, we can have lunch, but I've been there. I said, you trying to talk a guy into doing something that he's afraid and lost his confidence? I said, he's been away from the stage too long, which he never liked when he first started. I said, so to go back, he's 74 now. I said, going on the road would be committing suicide. I said, he has to get into the swing of things. I said, that's why I love performing as much as I could. Because I say, I'm never going to let them catch me, an old man. You know, I said, you know, I'll tell you and you'll tell me.
But are you saying to me you can never see yourself as an old man?
No.
It's performing is the youth, is the energy.
Performance is youth. I never saw myself as an old man. I just teasing you when I say, why is everything seem to be so long? And you say, because we're older, and it just passed by so fast. I just felt through all I went through to become where I'm at. Somebody said, would you do it again? I said, I ain't got no choice. I would do it the same way.
You take all this stuff in your stride. Not many people would survive like you have after the death of your brother, the death of your sons, the death of Sam Cooke, the man that you loved.
Hard.
The hard time you had, and I've read, and we've talked about this before, the hard time you had when you married Sam Cooke's widow, and you told me at the time you married Sam Cooke's widow, took after her, because you promised that to Sam Cooke. And people were awful to you.
Yeah, but you know, it's not like he knew he was going to die. I just said, I wish somebody would do me like that. I said, I'm going out there to protect his family because I know all the vouchers are looking. The pimps on the street. Everybody else was trying to, now I'm going to get that money. You know, they didn't think nothing about her. And when you got an attitude like he was caught with another woman, I said, then you'll do something out of spite, just think you're getting back at him. I said, but you be getting back at yourself. So I told her, I know the publishing because he taught it to me, and I can tell you the things. First thing I told her, never sign your publishing because that's everything he worked for. I said, with us being black artists and white artists, I said, white artists, if you got paid $1, they got paid 20. I said, that's just the way it was. I said, it was the same way with whites on one side, blacks on the other. And at 15, I was playing the guitar for him, and he once says to me, man, I don't even drink. He said, I'm turning around to this artist, turning this artist, trying to present the boat. He said, those people want to get together and party. He said, they don't care about dogs walking up down the aisles, and every time you got to let the white people off first, and you set to sit there for a half an hour before you can leave. Like, and if somebody, Sam say, darling, you send me, the people would jump up in the air. The black people would. The dogs would attack them. You know, and stuff like that. And I say, man, that's terrible. I said, how could you live in a mansion and then come out here and live in a motel? Because you can't stay in hotels. His line was to me, Bobby, don't you get it? We get motel and motels.
Darling, you send me, I know you send me. Darling, you send me. Honest you do, honest you do, honest you do.
I wonder what it was about you. He probably saw a young Sam Cooke, didn't he?
He probably did. He said, you're a hell of a writer. And he said, man, if you get on drugs, you'll never come back. He said, you're too young. He said, stay away from that and don't worry about trying to get in the glee club like with the fellas. He said, because some fellas will pull you in and you can't come out.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
A change is going to come. That Sam Cooke track means, I think, even more now, don't you, than it did at the time?
Yeah.
Because you actually had to be a little bit smart to work out what he was saying.
He was very smart. But he told me, he called me one night and he says, I couldn't cut a song. He said, I tried to reach you, but I couldn't reach you. He says, I wouldn't cut this song. Renee was his arranger. And he said, we went in and he said, I want you to come up here and listen at this. And I said, tonight? He said, yeah. He says, running me crazy. He said, because all the lyrics must have dreamed it in my sleep. But he said, I don't know why it's here. And he said, all those songs like Another Saturday Night and I Ain't Got Nobody. He said, that's okay. He said, that's just fun. He said, but I'm trying to make a statement. And he sung and he played Change Gonna Come. Now, he had bought the Glen Sounds estate where they had speakers coming out the wall and the ceiling. I mean, this guy was crazy. Sam played it, and he has a great big room, probably about, this living room was the size, double the size of this, you know. So he played that song, and he turned it off, and he said, what did you think? I said, feels like death. That was my exact words to him. He said, feel like death. I said, not to feel like death, but feel like it's trying to get somebody's attention. And they said, from years to come, it's going to get somebody's attention. I said, a better word for it, it just feels eerie to me, it brings cold chills on me. And he said, yeah, that's what I've been feeling all night. That's why I wanted to ask you, what did you think about it? He said, I thought I had took it from the radio on somebody else's song. So then, as he was talking, I said, man, you know, something brought it on. He asked me, he said, Bobby, you won't believe it, but we'll have a black president. He said, I'll never live to see it, but you will.
When Robbie met Bobby, Vincent and Womack on Jazz FM.
I can't seem to believe myself. Here I go again, here I go again, here I go again. Listen to me now. It's 5 o'clock a.m., but the party is still going strong. There's a conversation over in the corner. Big cats all on the lawn, and the FM music is moving. Folks getting down in their stocking feet. Sleepy eyes are peeping from the window across the street, and it looks like daylight gonna catch me up again. Gonna catch me up again. Most people are getting up when I'm just getting in. Oh, it's the only time. It seems to be the only time that I can unwind. Swore to myself, time and time again, that I would give up the nightlife and start playing. But it ain't easy, no. Saying no to my friends. Cause the real set don't get started till everyone else is in. And it looks like daylight gonna catch me up again. Gonna catch me up again. Most people are getting up.
Bobby Womack and Daylight. Bobby joins me this week, next week and the week after here on Jazz FM. We've already talked about Bobby's health and Sam Cooke, but what about James Brown? Now, you did that track with Bootsy Collins, and the Bootsy Collins track reminded me of you being sent out, and I think it was, from memory, you got sent on a tour with James Brown to get musical discipline.
Yeah.
And Bootsy Collins said that. He said, the thing I learnt from James Brown was you're not late, You do what you're told and you behave yourself. If you work with James Brown, they were his rules. If you were late, if you didn't behave yourself...
When you said James, the only thing he would say is Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown.
Still say Mr. Brown.
Really?
You know, and I say, that was Mr. Brown. He demanded that. And I say, Sam once told us, you know why I put y'all out with James Brown? He said, James Brown have y'all marching like soldiers when you come out. He said, I know you too well. I love you too much. I don't have the heart to tell you, hey. But James would be saying, he watch us every time we perform. He said, I say, James is in the wings. I said, I know, I see him.
But you ignored him.
But I ignored him. And I remember one day, he said, where you guys come from? He said, what a bunch of sissies. That's what he was saying, because we had our hair long. And he was saying, man, and so I told him, I said, man, I was talking to somebody else, and he was trying to tell us, you always take a bow. When somebody come out, you go back out. I said, but we ain't got but one song. He said, don't matter. Looking for a love, go back out. So he was telling us like that. He said, but it's the stupidest I've ever seen in my life. Now, Sam would never say that. So I was talking to somebody else, and he took the drumsticks and cracked me across the head with them. I mean, so hard it brought tears to my eyes. So I wanted to say, you ain't my daddy, but I was too scared to, because I say right now, this man is insane. You know, and I will never forget, because Solomon Burke was big then, and they were arguing about who was going to close. And I said, I ain't never heard of Solomon Burke. I said, is he crazy? Solomon Burke quit the show because they wouldn't let him sell popcorn. I should have been. Now I know he had to be making more money than he was selling popcorn himself. Would you like a Solomon Burke popcorn? Only 10, you know. He was always like that. So they said, man, you can't do that. He said, that's your fans out there. He said, I know, but they're gonna be my fans more to buy some of the Solomon Burke's popcorn.
I'm gonna find. I've got the fans I know. Here and there, and I'm searching everywhere, and I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm looking for well now, and I'm looking here and there, searching everywhere. Got to look, got to find someone. Someone to get up in the morning and rub my head. I'm looking for a love to call my own. Someone to fix my breakfast and bring it to my bed. I'm looking for a love to call my own. Someone to do a little housework and pamper me again. I'm looking for a love to call my own. The lots of love and kisses and people under them.
Bobby Womack looking for love here on Jazz FM, and Bobby's here with me. Why are you still so happy?
It's because I always say, there was a song Smokey Robinson wrote, said, "The Tears of a Clown." I say, I survived that, because if I would laugh, I'd find something to laugh about and joke about, and it keeps me from thinking about something that tore me down, or I would cry all the time.
See Sly Stone at all?
Yeah, I talked to Sly before I left, going on this tour, and this is, I hadn't spoken to him in 20 years. I started feeling that something was going to come. I said, he's going to die. I said, he's going to kill himself. And I just felt that way. I say, I know so many people. I know more dead people than I do people living.
But I'm still alive, and you're still alive.
Yeah, but
so
I'm
there's
saying
two of
he
us.
was my partner.
Yeah, you played on a Riots Going On, didn't you?
Yeah, and I grew up and learned a lot from him. But I kept saying, man. And so I just said, told George, I said, George, give me his number. She said, you know, we're going to change it every week. I said, just give me his number anyway. So I called him, and he just picked up the phone, but he wouldn't answer. But I heard him breathing. So I said, Slide, this is Womack. I know that's you. He still didn't say nothing. I said, I can tell by the way you breathe. So he fell out laughing. He said, Bobby, can you really tell by? I said, you know how long we've been knowing each other, man? Come on. I said, we've gotten high together. You breathe a short breath and a long one, and a short one and a long one, and sometimes you don't breathe at all. Because I remember I walked into the little private room where he did his recording at, and he had stayed up. We had probably stayed up 4 or 5 days, and he had fell asleep on the piano. He was out, and they say he'd been out like about at least an hour. So I tipped upon him and said, hey, Seal. And he'd rub up and say, one child grows up to be. And that's where that song comes from. People say, I say, you're not going to leave it like that, is you? He say, that's the way I felt at the time.
It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair.
One child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mom loves the both of them. You see, it's in the blood. Both kids are good and bound. Blood's thicker than the mud. It's a family affair.
Family affair.
It's a family affair.
Family affair.
What of it? Still checking each other out. Hey, nobody wants to blow. Nobody wants to be left out. You can't leave cause your heart is there, but you can't stay cause you've been somewhere else. You can't cry cause you look broke down, but you're crying anyway cause you're all broke down. It's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
This is Robbie Vincent talking to Bobby Womack on Jazz FM. We were just talking Sly Stone, and I thought it would be nice to play it. Earlier we were chatting about selling Sam Cooke songs. A woman gotta have it. Your mum used to say that.
Yep.
And somebody wanted to change it, and we won't say who it is. Mm-hmm. And you actually got really cross about that.
And he wanted to give me $75,000. And he said, all I want you to do is just sanction it. Do your little yodels and that stuff. He said, then I'll take over the rest. I first told him, I said, $75,000 would be small in my pocket. I said, give me some serious money to the bank. I said, but first I can go there. I said, I need to hear what you're saying. So he said something real crazy. A woman got to have, a woman ain't got to do nothing unless she, you know. And I told him, I said, you know, I wrote that song for my mom. And he was very hurt about it. He said, oh, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know where you were coming. He said, I was going to try to make it like an abstract painting. I said, that's a poor painting, if that's what you're going to say. I said, how you think you got here? I said, yeah. And he said, you say, woman got to have it, but if you don't give it up, some other man will reach out and grab it. He said, so I thought you was talking in that vein. He said, did it sound like it was about your mother? I said, yeah, because my mother's still living. I said, besides that, if I had enough nerve to say that, I said, man, she's left-handed. I said, she would knock the shit out of me.
Fellas, I wonder would you mind if I talk to you a minute? You know, sometimes we have a tendency, or should I say we forget what a woman needs every now and then. That is, if you want to keep your thing together. Listen to me now. Do the things that keeps you smile on the face. Say the things that make you feel better every day. Man, you got to stay on your P's and Q's. If you don't, the woman you can easily lose. Oh, that she calls me. Oh, a woman gotta have it. I believe she's gotta know that she's needed around. When you kiss her, you gotta make her feel it. Every time, boy, she wants to know that she's not walking on shaky ground. You might find a tear trace. Maybe the girl might never say a bubbling word, but you better make sure that her voice is heard. Oh, I had a love, a true love, and I lost it. I'm suffering all this pain that love cost me. Oh, the woman got to have it. You gotta give it to her. You gotta make her feel it. She wanna know that she's not walking on shaky ground. Yeah. So if you got a love and you wanna keep her, you got to give her what she wants when she wants it. Where she wants it. And how she wants it. Every doggone time she feels she needs it.
Woman's Gotta Have It. That's Bobby Womack on Jazz FM. Until the end of January, Bobby is with me, and when we come back, we'll come right up to date and play a track from the new album, Bravest Man in the Universe. And we'll talk about an interesting guy, in not a too good a way, I have to say. He's called Oral Roberts.
Robbie Vincent talks to Bobby Womack on Jazz
I want to
FM.
dedicate this song to all the lovers tonight. And I expect that might be the whole world, because everybody needs something or someone to love.
When it's cold outside,
Who are you holding?
you know, if y'all don't mind, I'd like to talk about this woman of mine. She's always complaining about me never being at home. But when I'm bad, I'm broke. She's telling me about the things that a girlfriend's got, what she ain't got, and she want me to go out and get them for her. But girl, I can't be in two places at one time. If you think you're lonely now, wait until tonight, girl. I'll be long gone, and you never find another man that'll treat you right. When I ain't there to rub your back, just remember I made it a known fact. And the skeletons come out of the closet and chase you all around your room, and the memories sail out like a ghost and dance around in a fast slow tune. If you think you're lonely now, boy, wait until tonight. I'll be long gone, and you'll never find another man that'll treat you right. If you think you're lonely now, wait until tonight, girl. Lord, ain't it funny how the tables turn when things are going your way? up now. Ooh, baby. You say you're a little lonely, but everybody needs somebody to love. It's good that you know that you got somebody that'll stand by your side, that'll build you up when you're falling down. And you have that someone, baby.
If you think you're lonely now, Bobby Womack.
When Robbie met Bobby, Robbie Vincent talks to Bobby Womack on Jazz FM.
Well, for a man who gave his body to medical science when you were alive, you're looking great, I have to tell you. I mean, those surgeons have had a lot of practice with you.
The only thing that I can really laugh and smile on is that I can't believe I'm still here. I wonder why he kept me so long. So I said, I must have a job that's educating, you know, because one thing that I noticed in Europe, the Europe continent, they always took the music a lot more serious than they took it in the States. I say, it's like those artists come and go. I say, you go here and you hear records that you say they're still playing these records and love the record, you know, or picked out a new cut from the album. And I would like to see that my people understand how important that is. You know, when you talk about the Billie Holidays, you talk about even Sammy Davis Jr. I say there was entertainment going on before you got here. And we call these people the icebreakers. Y'all don't even know who they are.
Let's come right up to date, and the recent gigs, and you mentioned you couldn't remember Damien's surname. It's Albarn, but it's okay. You know, I forget who I am sometimes.
Yeah, but for me, I just said, I hope he never thinks that I'm disrespecting him.
No,
I say I have a lot of respect for him.
Bobby, I'm sure nobody would. Nobody would. Yeah. You're getting too sensitive in your maturity. You're being oversensitive, but it's nice. Tell us about the gigs. You split it up because we've got the bravest man in the world, like I call you, Mr. Iron Man. You've got that half, and then you came on and did a Bobby Womack bit. And can I just pick up on a track from the new album, and it's all about Oral Roberts. Stupid, it's called. I'm not suggesting Oral Roberts was stupid. It's called Stupid. And when I listened to it, I thought, here you are questioning what a man is promising everybody, and I think here is a man who's been promised a lot and has suffered because those promises just didn't happen. I mean, you've dealt with some of the biggest crooks, haven't you, that the record business has ever seen. But
most artists do. Artists come in, I say, you know why these artists get ripped off? Because they come in the world, they're so green and naive to the business side. They put most of their energy into creating, and people that don't have their creativity take advantage of it.
But there aren't many artists, are there, who come back in this new Bobby Womack style with the new album, who are then actually singing about things which mean an awful lot to them. I mean, Oral Roberts, I mean, come on, for those who don't know him, I mean, this is a man who tells his followers that God told him to go and buy a new car. So he went an expensive Buick. These poor people have paid for this car. And they've got no money, and they hand it over to him and buy your slot in heaven.
It's a very special feeling for why I admired an artist like Sam Cooke so much, is because he lived like a king, but he'd always go to the vineyards and perform for people, and I say, why do you take all of that? I say, there's blacks on one side and whites on the other. And he would say, somebody's got to do it. He said, man, music is a universe, and he says very strong. He said, that's the only thing the world understands, is that. And so therefore, he was just a spectacle. He just says, man, everything I have, they gave it to me. He would go beyond this cause to acknowledge the fact that some artists today, you know, will say right to a person in his face, hey, I don't feel like talking, get out of here, leave me alone. And I said, oh, that's terrible. He just, Sam would say, he just broke somebody's heart. That's all they have is his voice and his music. You know, he don't have time for it.
It's Robbie Vincent with you last week, this week and next week. We're giving you the chance to hear a mixture of Bobby Womack interviews that have been recorded over the last 18 months. We'll be flipping seamlessly between the one that was made at the Jazz FM studios in 2011 and the one we did last November at the Royal Garden Hotel in Kensington just after his 2 sellout London shows. You won't even hear the join, I promise you. We'll get back to the Crusaders story shortly, but I wanted to mention Wilton Felder in the context of Tony Bennett, who we'll get to in a minute. But the Wilton Felder thing couldn't have happened at a better time, could it?
Yeah, it couldn't happen at a better time. And I didn't write the song. I just sung it my way. And when I heard it, he had a guy singing the song, and he said, just make it your song. And that's what I did, because I can only do it that way.
Yeah, but it does sound like you wrote it, doesn't it? It really sounds
it's
like
because I put my whole signature on it. I never sung nothing like nobody else. You know, I remember Tony Bennett calling me up saying, man, I heard you do Fly Me to the Moon. I never could ever hear it that way. He said, I think that's the greatest song I've heard. And he started singing, Fly Me to the Moon. And everybody sung it like that. I said, well, they don't really want to get to the moon because you got to fly. It's got to be moving fast. I said, it might as well take a mule. You know, so he started laughing. I speeded it up. And that's the reason I started singing Fly Me to the Moon is I had given Wilson Pickett every song that I had. And when I came there to Memphis, Pickett said, you got to see this. You won't believe this. It was all white guys. And I said, damn. He said, that's what I was talking about, Bobby. He said, they play for Aretha Franklin, tomorrow they Joe Tex, the next day they me. He said, they can change like the weather. And he said, if you want country and western, they play that.
Midnight Mover was a huge hit you did for Wilson Pickett, wasn't it?
But that was a song that I was supposed to record, also a song called I'm in Love. Was a bigger song, and the thing about it, to me, Pickett was such a great singer. You could somebody sing a song and you can't beat him even though you wrote it. I just said, I love the way he sang his song. That's all I can do with this song is take the record on me and play it.
This is Robbie Vincent on Jazz FM with Wilson Pickett, I'm in Love. The Tony Bennett story, Marcus Miller said to me that because I think I was asking him about why George Benson had let another similarly talented guitarist, Norman Brown, play with him. I said, he said, well, Marcus in his own way, he said, when you've got your own sound, you're there, you've made it. Yeah. And I suppose what Bennett is saying is that when you get a Bobby Womack singing something, it can only be Bobby Womack.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, is that a gift?
That's a gift.
That is a gift, isn't it? Because there are a lot of great singers.
Like, if I can't do it anything with it, I say I'm flying like everybody else, on that train. I say, but when I put a twist to it, it's like every song that I hear, I can never hear it the way it was recorded, especially if it's a song that somebody else wrote. I say, I got to either, the only thing I can do with a song that somebody else wrote is put my signature on it.
Bobby Womack's unique version of Fly Me to the Moon, very different to any other version you've heard before. I'm Robbie Vincent with Bobby Womack in the studio. The album, The Bravest Man in the Universe, is out now. But what about other projects? Bobby Bland?
The Bobby Bland thing didn't happen. I wish it had, because he's a guy I admire.
Okay, cross that out. Bobby Bland did not happen.
Okay.
Next. Bobby Bland didn't happen. What about your... Listen, what about your own album? I know you've done a song with Tina Marie. When I heard about that, I thought, well, Survivor, and I actually wrote down Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Otis Redding, Marvin Gaye, Jackie Wilson and Sam Cooke, which on the introduction, and I thought, maybe it's time you revisit it, because just out of my head, Rick James, Grover Washington Jr., Gil Scott-Heron, Isaac Hayes, James Brown, Michael Jackson, Johnny Taylor, Ray Charles, Curtis Mayfield, and Tina Marie. Hugely underrated.
But you know the thing about it, I used to always see her and the other artists that joined me. I would say, I've known you for 30 years. I only meet you at the airport. I'm going east, you going west. And I say, if you control yourself, I said, I would just be honored to sing a song with you, because you're my favorite artist. I said, you know what makes you different? Nobody sounds like you. I said, nobody sounds like me. If you put your signature on a song that somebody else wrote, it becomes your song. So she said, when you want to go in the studio? I said, I'm going to do a one-nighter, and I'll be back. I call her when I get back. I called her, and she said, what studio? I'm on my way down. Never thought about our life is going to be cut short like that. And so when I came back off of the Gorilla tour, I heard that she had passed and asleep. Oh, man, it tore me up again. But I said, well, I want to take this song with her singing and me singing and give all the profits directly to her daughter. You know, because I know she loved her daughter. And I say, her daughter's trying to be a singer too, but you have to grow up and grow into it. You know, you don't come to Tina Marie overnight. I say, plus, your daughter's going to be compared with her. I said, so you got to find your own pocket. I said, they'll say two different artists.
Come bring me your softness. Comfort me through all this madness. Woman, don't you know with you I'm born again.
Come give me your sweetness. Now there's you, there is no weakness. Lying safe within your arms, I'm born again.
I was half not whole, instead with none,
reaching through this world in need of one. Gone
Bobby Womack with Tina Marie. Now, you also worked with Levert, didn't you, Bobby?
It's another guy from my hometown. I just thought they would say he sounds like his dad. I said he's got more drive than his dad. And he's not like his dad. You're just from the same mold. I said, but they're two different artists. And I liked the way he was helping his father every time he got a chance. Sing this song with me, do that. And that made the OJs come back a lot. So I saw him and I said, man, I know your father for a long time. And I said, but we never did anything together. I said, they wanted me to come in and play guitar on a ballad. But he said, what do you want to do? I said, I wrote this song that I'd like for you to sing it with me. He said, can you come to Cleveland? I flew into Cleveland and we went to his studio. And he cut it and added some things like he would normally do. He said, I can never do it just like you. He said, because I'm Levert and you Womack. And that blew me out.
If you get anything on the line, you gotta put up with the talk and strive, yeah. We almost pushed on a little bit too far. We forgot to remember how blessed we are. Yeah.
what she sees. You don't have to worry, she ain't gonna get next to me. No. You told me think it over, and I thought it over and over and over, over and over and over. You see, 'cause that's the way I feel about you. That's the way I feel about you. That's the way I feel about you, baby. Oh, that's the way I feel.
So then I went to Stevie. The same way, Stevie. Man, I tell you, I said, we known each other all our lives. You remember when the first show I did was with you? I said, I was still married to Barbara then. I said, I tore that house up with one song. And I said, it wasn't even a record. It was something I was going to record. And I said, I tore it up so bad, I remember you coming out and playing opera for about 20 minutes on the piano to distract the people. And I said, once you distracted me, it came down, 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 down. It was like I never was there. I said, that's the smartest move I would ever make. And he was laughing, saying, I recall that. He said, boy, you got a remembrance. I said, man, somebody kicking your ass, you're going to have a remembrance. I said, you know, you learn what not to do and what to do. And I said, this guy's smart. The house is still steaming. And he said, instead of waiting, he started playing, you know, and he kept playing that, and then he went through the whole song until the house was quiet as a mouse. Saying, look at this guy. By the time he went into his first hit, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, they had delivered me out of the place. I was gone, and I said, I'll never forget that. So I said, what I got to do is keep coming up more records. And I said, but I'm going to learn something from that. If any artist try to dump on me, I said, I'm not going to come out there trying to fight him back. I say, I'll do something that will shock the people. I pick up my guitar, start playing classical, you know.
Yep.
And then I say, once they get tired of listening to that, 40, I know they get tired because you can always feel when you lose an audience. So if you can feel that, you know when to quit and you know when to start. So then I jump off into fly, dun, 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 and the people go, wow. I say, it works.
I was thinking about the time when things weren't so good, and you got to hear that the Crusaders, it's one of my favourite Bobby Womack stories, you got to hear the Crusaders were looking for someone to sing on one of their tunes, and if I remember you correctly, you knew where they were eating and you just happened to turn up and bump into them. Now, is that a Bobby Womack story, or is that the truth?
That's a story somebody else made up. The guys came up and said, hey, we got a song we would love for you to sing. And the song was a hit. It just took right off. And
because the story you tell me,
Otis Smith,
yeah,
that was had a company called Beverly Glenn. Say he was so knocked out about the record. He said, "What is he doing? Is he signing with anybody?" He said, "I don't think so." And so he came out to me, and I went in the studio and cut 3 albums and brought Patti LaBelle in, and I was just on. Then I was ripped off terribly. He took advantage of that situation. Until today, you know, I never seen a penny from it, you know. So,
do you forgive these people? Well,
you know why? I honestly believe in my mind. That's why I'm who I am. I say, I think you have to have all of these things. It tests your passion for what you love to do. And I say, when I go out and sing and write a song that I sing about, I say, it's a lot of people in that audience are there. It's because they've been there, but they don't have the voice that I have to go on stage and put your business in the street, so to speak. You know, so
you didn't answer my question. Have you forgiven some of the bad things that have happened to you and some of the individuals that took advantage of the softer side of you? Do you forgive them? Do you forget?
Yeah. This business is so fast, you don't have a chance to remember. You got to say, okay, I was hit with a punch. I got to get over that punch and keep going if I'm going to be in the boxing game. Only time I'm embarrassed is when people talk about it and said, how do you feel about it? And I said, to be honest, I never even thought about it, because I can't change it.
Your destiny is sure, like the colors of a rainbow, which even time on time endure. You can feel it growing. The wind is getting stronger and heavy the wind. Oh, won't you try, my friend,
Wilton Felder featuring Bobby Womack, Inherit the Wind. This is Robbie Vincent on Jazz FM with Bobby Womack. What's the story with you and Stevie Wonder? Didn't you get him to do a track for the Resurrection album?
Yeah, I got Stevie to do a track. I told him, I said, man, I know you're on boss. And I said, but if your manager tell you, you don't need Bobby, Bobby needs you. I said, and
That's
you got more
humble.
money than you know what to do with.
But
I
Jazz, that's
say,
a
you
very
tell
humble.
me, okay, well, you talk to him.
Hey, that's a very humble boy. Because you see, I think a lot of people forget just how sensitive you are. Because you do have sort of an image. You can be pretty tough. And you're a pretty good businessman as well. That's monstrously humble to say to Stevie Wonder, I need you.
Stevie said, how come? He was, what night you want to do it? I said, tomorrow night. Now, I admit, tomorrow night would come and Stevie never showed. 2 weeks later, the next day would come. And all that, something, he walks in the door with his guy. And he said, hey, man, I'm sorry I'm late. He said, you know what? I saw some kids in Mexico. And I went down over my little truck, he said, to record them. You know, so he's that kind of guy. He said, I said, you got so much time. I said, you give all. He said, Bobby, I give more than I could ever take. But you see, everything I got here, he said, came from those people.
Did you forgive him for being 2 weeks late?
Oh, I never even mentioned it. I just said, man, I'm glad you're here. Because it was like talking to myself. And then I wrote this song that he said, I love that song. And he said, you know what, I never sang with nobody else.
They marching on to war. They try to move a man from a baby boy. He never got used to knives and guns. He felt so out of place because he never had to hurt.
He said, I mean, when I was first starting and Motown had a grip, he said, did a couple of duets that other people wrote. But he said, when I started writing Be Blind, he said, I had the best protection in the world. They had to deal with the blind society. So they couldn't take advantage of me.
That reminds me, didn't you went blind for a time, and I was trying to remember which of your brothers used to... let me tell you about this guy. I'm going to make him tell the story. This man, at the time, was not very happy, I think, with his record company. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. So what do you do if you don't really want a gig? Well, you go blind. I mean, this is really dramatic. He did. And which of your brothers was it you used to go on stage and he used to have his hands on your shoulders?
Yeah. Now, what happened is that they kept saying, all these promoters say, we're going to sue him. It was about Harry Hippie. And I used to joke with my brother. I said, my brother was killed by a woman that was jealous and insecure with herself. I said, I brought my brother up to my house and say, hey, man, you stay here until I come back. I'm going to Seattle to do a gig, and I'm going to find a bass player at the time, and you got to get back in it. But sometimes you can feel when something's too late. You know, I was always nervous about it. But getting back to Stevie, Stevie says, I love the lyric to this song. He said, what made you write it? And I say, Cousin Henry. We used to always tease him because when he went to Vietnam, I say, he was straight as an arrow. I said, when he came back, he used to get drunk every day, all day. And I say, man, I asked him, I say, why do you drink like that? Why you cop out like that? He said, you ever killed somebody? And I said, no, I can't even think of it. He said, because kids are running with their bombs strapped around them. And they be coming calling your name. He said, before you want to try to pat them on the head, you're dead. And he said, they blown away. He said, now, their parents got to be very serious to send their kids out like that. He said, so we had to break in houses and shoot everybody. You know. So he says, I said, well, I will never laugh at you again as being a drunk. 5 years later, he stopped drinking, and wasn't doing anything, and that song came about. So when I told Stevie the story, he says, man, I'd love to be a part of it. And he said, what are you planning to do? And I told him I was going to dedicate my shows to the veterans, because he said, they got a veteran in every city. He said, you ain't got to ask them. He said, you just tell all the people in that city, New York, Detroit, to show up. He said, you still do the show. And he said, that way, I say, but I want to be able to stand in line and let them walk past and give them $5,000. I don't want to put no money in nobody else's hands. But Stevie is real humble, you know, and he said, man, you know, Ali, he says, he didn't want his daughter to be a boxer. He said, but she started knocking people out. He wouldn't even go. He said, then he finally went. He said, boy, I hope my daughter don't get beat tonight because she's too pretty to be getting knocked out like that. He said, she never lost a fight. He said, I saw her do the Ali Shuffle and knock a woman out. So he said, you never know. He said, so don't, because he was saying that to me because I was telling him about my daughter wants to be a singer. I said, she ain't no singer, man. She's real pretty, and I want my son to be the guy out there and woo him, get these women hollering, you know. I said, my daughter, and made me worse not believing her. Her mother kept telling me, she sounds just like you. She screams. I said, when I scream, I'm ugly. I said, when she screams, how's she going to be cute and scream at the same time? I said, it don't work. I said, I'm not impressed at all. So one day, I kept giving her money to record, but I wasn't getting no songs back. And I said, you know what? You have to love this with a passion. Don't keep telling me about you going to buy me a Ferrari when you get famous. I said, shit, I'd have no more Ferraris and more automobiles than you know what to do with. So she said, Dad, I really want to do that. I really want to do that for you. I said, you know what I want you to do is find your passion and really dedicate yourself to that.
Everybody claims that they want the best things out of life. But not everyone wanna go through the toils and strife. Like this particular fella walks around all day long saying, shine. Harry Hippie lies asleep in the shed. Life don't bug him, 'cause he thinks he's got it made. Never worry about nothing in particular. But ooh, he might even sell free press on Sunset. I like to help a man when he's down, but I can't help him much when he's sleeping on the ground. It's like a bottle in water, carries just flow through life. Walks around all day long singing the song.
This is Robbie Vincent on Jazz FM. We've been flitting about a bit with stories about Cousin Henry and so on, but I want you to finish the story about when you had this sight problem. Was it Friendly Junior?
Friend, that's my oldest brother.
Right.
And he was saying, man, I don't think you should do that. And I said, man, they're trying to force me on this tour. I got to do something. So he said, well, you know, your next gig is at Madison Square Garden. And I told him, I said, well, what I'm going to do is have you to patch my eyes up with these cotton balls and put tape all on them. And I say, don't let me reach for anything in the way. I want to feel it, not the coffee off. I'm sorry, you know, but blind people ain't that dumb. They real neat. They know exactly where they're going. But so my brother was saying, man, okay, you're going to do this. So he would say, ladies and gentlemen, bring me out on stage. And he'd say, I'm sorry to say, my brother had a fall. He said when he woke up, he couldn't see nothing. So I'm standing there walking, knocking mics over everything. So people say, oh, my God. You know.
And you're very naughty.
I was very naughty. And so what broke my heart and brought me out of it, but I got to say this, is I was staying at the hotel on Sunset because the crowds of photographers was everywhere trying to get a story. And I got scared because I said, what am I going to get out of it? So I go and stay at the hotel, and guess who walks in? Stevie Wonder.
Did you tell him the story?
No, I couldn't tell him that story. I told him, he said, Bobby, he said, being blind, he said, look at the advantages you have. He said, like right now, if I touch this woman on the ass, he said, she goes, oh, I'm sorry, and put my hand right back on the ass. You fine. And I said, man, I was getting embarrassed. He said, so it ain't blind, man. He said, people feel sorry for you. You can do a lot of things. He said, oh, man, Bobby, you don't know what you're missing. So,
but you did this because, was it you had the hump with promoters, or was it your label telling you to tour?
It was promoters that was saying, it was about 15 promoters saying if he ever come to the city, we're going to sue him, and I'm getting my money back. So I had all these lawsuits coming in because of Harry.
Yeah,
that was what had me doing that. I said, I'm not going to sing Harry Hippie. I go to them and do the show. They said, no, but Harry Hippie is the #1 record. You got to sing that. I said, yeah, but it ain't no fun no more. And I sing it now, I'll cry because I think about my brother. Just
to touch on, and I know it's important to you, is country music. And when you used to tour, the radio stations were all it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it was easier to find a country station than anything else, or a pop station. But you sort of developed a love for country music, and one of the things you said was that you like country music because there was no devil worship.
Yeah, and it was all about love. Even when the woman was doing him wrong, it was out of love, you know. And I say,
singing in the fields. I
said, them people they seem like they gotta yearn and they cry, you know. And I said, man, I can relate to this. And the other things I can relate to is that when I turned the corner from my ghetto house, the radio station would change to Country and West, and I said, damn. So after a while, I just learned to say, can't beat them, join them. And I started listening to them, and I said, these guys got some hell of a stories.
Did it help with your writing? Huh? Did it help with your writing?
Yeah, it taught me how to be real. So I said, you can reach real people, and somebody, a country western singer, say, there's a lot of fakes out there. He said, you write a fake song, he said, it'll reach a lot of fake people. He said, because they can relate to themselves. He said, but at the same time, you can tell a true story, and they'll confess.
I'm going to give you 2 words, and I want you to choose between these 2, right? Survivor or poet?
Survivor.
the best friend he's got. I'd give him the shirt off my back. He knows he can trust me with his life. But each time he leaves me alone with his wife. I wish he didn't trust me so much. I think he really trusts me too much. How can he be so blind? We both got the same good taste. He should know when he's gone on his business trip. Can't help watching this woman without losing my grip. I wish he didn't trust me so much. I think he really trusts me too much. Oh, I swear, oh, it's not my will. But there's a way she make me feel. Lord, I'm scared, so scared of what I do. If she starts feeling the same way too, we got a problem. I think you really trust me too much. It's not that she leaves me on. I'm getting there all by myself. But just being with her all alone, I can't help but hoping that he never comes home. I wish he didn't trust me so much. I think he really trusts me too much. Got a problem. I think you really trust me too much.
Bobby Womack, I Wish You Didn't Trust Me So Much on Jazz FM. Welcome to the third and final part of our mini Bobby Womack series. Over the last few weeks we've listened to Bobby talk about his life, his collaborations, his thoughts and of course his illnesses. Originally we were only going to do this programme over 2 weeks, but we found we had so much content we thought we would indulge ourselves one last time. And let me let you into a little secret, and I wouldn't say this in front of Bobby. I have never come across anybody who has so many stories to tell. But the trouble with Bobby is because he's full of musical experiences, he's full of people he's met, he's had a long career, he keeps diving off left, right, centre, up and down, and it's quite difficult to keep all that information in a way that we can actually understand. But I've got a feeling we actually managed it over the past 2 weeks, so let's see if we can keep it up on this final week. So let's get right up to date for a moment. Let's get on to the family affair. Now, your daughter's in the band, Gina Ree, and she was doing, you last told me, a documentary about you. What's the best advice you've ever given that daughter of yours?
The best information I've given her is that don't be affected by people comparing you against me, because I'm your father. I say you have to go out and find your own way. And she would always say, but Dad, why are they comparing me? I says, because that's who you are. I said, so evidently, I never understood it. I said, you have to grow and be allowed to grow like I did. You know, I said, nobody noticed me until I got there. You know, and I say, but because I had the passion, and the word passion is so important. I said, you got to love what you do. So you talk about materialistic things, or buying me a car. I said, I've had any car you can name. I said, if anything, it took away from what was already there naturally. I say, you know, you never run out of people. I say, that's why I've been here. And this is importance. Without this, I have no reason to say, what have I been doing in the last 30 years? This is what I've been doing.
Do you get on well with her in a live performance?
Yeah, I stay on it, and it's hard. But I turn around and say, yon, ladies and gentlemen, my daughter, Gina Ree. And I say, if you let that house fall at any, you'll know it.
Because there's a huge difference between on stage and off stage, isn't there? With
For
a
her,
father-daughter relationship.
yeah, she really wants it, and she's been tested. And I said, that's what you gotta have. I said, you know, to want to rehearse, to want to be better. And the thing that I said is a weakness. You can't be everybody else. I said, when I see your generation, everybody, all the girls are dancing and they have their crew. I said, you know, why don't you just try singing from here? I said, and you'll be different from anybody else, because everybody else have tapes, every lights going and everything that makes them. You strip them from that. They don't know how to handle it.
I never listened to her until she brought a song home called Book of Ideas. And I said, she is awesome. I mean, it shocked me. I said, who's singing background? She said, me. I said, you doing all the backgrounds? She said, I'm doing all the backgrounds. I said, who wrote it? She said, I wrote it. And she said, I'm publishing it. I'm shooting my own video. So I looked and I say, everybody was telling me, the only thing about her is she thinks she knows everything. I said, well, that's my daughter. I'm the same way. I said, it's only right when it's right for me.
Here we are, two shining stars came together. Seemed like it was only yesterday. We were only twinkles in some far galaxy. And oh, one silent night, a guiding light brought your love to me. Brought your love to me. Oh, this ecstasy, oh, eternity. A burning flame melted our two hearts into one. A burning desire could only take us higher, 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 higher. And what I wanna know is, where do we go from here? You tell me. Oh, I'd like to know. Where? Woo-hoo, baby. Oh, I wonder, would you mind if I just talk to you a minute? You see, we've been together too long, baby. But backing up now. Let's go to Mars, where children play and live on candy bars, where spirit souls run free. There's no night or day, and all is harmony. That burning desire would always be a part of me. It brought us to this, but oh baby, this is our final destiny. Oh, a burning flame, it melted our two hearts into one. Oh love, a burning desire. All we could ever do is take us higher. Where? 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 do we go from here? I'm sort of confused. You see, I've been on the mountaintop. And you see, I knew one day my choice would come around. Excuse me while I take my time and sing this song. To be. Now tell me, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? You see, baby, I'm just so tired of going through changes. I'm tired of you building me up just to let me down. Make up your mind. Oh, I'd like to know.
Bobby Womack's Where Do We Go From Here on Jazz FM. That's from the 1981 Motown album, The Poet. Let's talk about the new project for a moment. Tell me about working with Damon Albarn. I guess you have to connect to work with Bobby Womack. You don't strike me as someone who suffers fools gladly.
But the thing about Damon is because it takes a creative person to know a creative person. He knew that I had been through a lot of changes, and he paced himself with me. But he would say, don't you want to go back and go back in the studio or go do these things? And I say, the business has changed so much, and I don't know how to get back on the train. The train is moving so fast. I've never been put in a position like this. But at the same time, yeah, he would play an idea that I said, that sounds like something I could do. And he said, that's what I'm doing you. So right then, he wanted me to write the song. And I said, okay, the next day I came in, the song was done. And I was excited. I never worked on material so fast. It's like I felt that I had to take it around the block, produce it from a different aspect. It was like an abstract painting, you know. And he would throw suggestions up. But I never felt that he was trying to crush the dream. I would tell him about when I was a kid. Just stories like we're talking now. And the tape was always running. And he said, you ought to write a song about that. And so I listened, I said, yeah, but I never was allowed to do that. I said, companies would pick what they wanted. I say, my concepts, they would destroy. And so I think this should be with this. And I said, if I'm living it, nobody could experience it like me. And they would understand it if they leave it alone and let it happen. Well, the best way to say that it was Damon and Richard. They just brought out the best of me because they allowed me to do things that I always wanted to do, but when I got in the studio, it was always, give me another song like the other one. And it was like doing the same song, so I said, I'm wasting time.
Robbie Vincent on Jazz FM with Bobby Womack for the final time. We've spent a lot of time talking about the family, Bobby, so I want to come back to Gina Ree for a moment. Is she still making a documentary about you?
Yes, she's still doing that. She's out here now with her cameras, you know, and it's an opportunity, but at the same time, I feel like which one means the most? I say, you want to be on stage singing. You can't be on stage singing if you ain't out there with your camera. I said, you got to be somewhere. So which way you want to do it? She says, I said, the documentary can be and take as long as it take. I said, but this gig that we're doing is tomorrow. And I can't see you split yourself up and I go off on you like I can't stand you. It's because I say you got to give one its full attention. I said you can't be the master of everything and not be good at none of them.
Are you telling me this is the longest documentary ever in production? Because she should be concentrating on one thing or the other?
Well, I think that it's what she wants to do, what's her passion most. I say, you want to be up on stage seeing me make mistakes, and believe me, I do still make mistakes, and watching me, I say, and learning from that. And you want to be a singer. I said, documentary, you got enough footage and you got enough experience for me dealing with me as a father every day.
Do you think she's lucky having you as a dad?
It's just recently that she started saying, Dad, you're unbelievable. Because I seen you limp coming up the steps. As soon as they called your name, you're like a whole nother person. Just go out there, don't you feel it? I don't know.
Okay.
It seems like she notices those things. So when she notices those things, I say you're learning the craft more and accepting about the craft.
We've been quite candid in this interview so far, so let's talk about drugs for a moment.
I stopped getting high 15 years ago, but I was so insecure and nervous about who I was that I said, man, the next record I'm gonna cut for myself. And it was because it was a guy named Gibbs. They recognized he was always at the airport. Always at the airport. I don't know why he picked me. He come running to me, man, guess what? My wife taking me through changes. I said, well, man, I'm not the guy you go to. I've been divorced 3 times. He said, yeah, but man, you know what she did? She gave me some milk, warm milk, put me to sleep, and left and went out. Stuff like that. So I saw him coming again, and I said, oh, here comes. I said, damn. So he started talking. I said, nosh. I'm going to miss my flight. I ain't got no time for no story. He said, man, I love her. I love her, though. I say, I'm tired of hearing about both of y'all. And I said, I'm going to miss my flight. So he kept running behind me saying, man, I didn't mean no harm. But he said, man, I love her. And I say, why do you love her? He just said, that's the way I feel about her. I said, say what? He said, that's the way I feel about her. That was the song, that's the way. And so I went on the plane. When the plane landed, I wrote the song. So I came back and went in the studio. Then I went back out to him and said, I want you and your wife to come for dinner at my house. And so I got something I want you to hear. It was like reliving the change gonna come. He came in and brought it. He said, we don't even speak. I said, just bring him anyway. She was coming because she was coming to Bobby Womack's house. He was coming, I guess, trying to get her back. But when they started playing That's the Way I Feel, I know you've been heard so many of us too. That's the thing the light put us through. Trust in me, my dear. All those lyrics, they were looking at this other and they were crying like a rat eating a raw onion. And they were crying. And he said, man, do you know what? He said, sound like you've been listening on the phone to me. I said, I ain't have to listen to the phone. Every time I come out, you come telling me about her. I said, I ain't have to listen. I said, so I got something out of it. I said, this song would have never been finished if you hadn't said that's the way you feel about her.
And explain to us, I mean, did he live at the airport if you kept meeting him?
He was a sky cap.
Okay.
And then what he did, 2 days later, his attorney called and said, wants 50% of the publishing, 50% of the writers. I said, you got to be kidding me. So I thought of what Sam said. He said, Bobby, you can't write songs around people. I don't care how nice they are. He said, let me tell you, that and works better than the. He said, if you take it this, I wrote the song with him. He said, man, don't tell nobody. Just go home, sleep, and write it, and then go on about your business. So I said, I can't believe he's doing this. Quit his job. Got a great big old upstairs, a building on Hollywood Boulevard. Man, inside of 4 months, was broke. He's trying to get his job back at the Sky Cap. And I never saw him again. I don't know what happened to him.
maybe we will hear from him again. He'll probably phone me.
Yeah.
He said, Robbie, you're not going to believe this, but we actually split up after Bobby wrote the song. Yeah, she thought she was a superstar.
You know, life is funny when you look at it. Everybody wants love, but everybody's afraid of love. You know, I'm a true believer that if you get anything out of life, you got to put up with the toils and strife. Now listen, you're pushing my love a little bit too far. I don't think you know how blessed you are. And your friend Annie Mae tell you all she see. Have you ever thought she was trying to get close to me? Yeah. Think it over, girl. Think it over. Look, that's the way I feel about you. And if that's been weak for you, I don't mind. That's the way I feel about you. Ooh, that's the way I feel about you. Please, I'm for love. If it ever comes knocking at your door, 'cause what's out there knocking, baby? The world don't give enough of. I know you've been hurt, and so has others too. But all you got to do is ask about the changes in life I put them through. Oh, Lord have mercy. That's just the way it is. Listen, don't take my love as a sign of weakness. Check into the situation, girl. Dig a little bit deeper. That's the way I feel about you, dear. Oh, that's the way I feel about you. That's the way I feel about you. Oh, Lord. That's the way. That's the way I feel about you. That's the way I feel about you. That's the way I feel about you.
I've always loved the story attached to that song, That's the Way I Feel About You by Bobby Womack. You may recall we played the Gerald Levert and Mary J. Blige cover of it last week. Now, Bobby, just before we wrap up the programme, just tell us about the live shows, because you now split them into two parts, don't you? Why did you do that?
I felt it was so important is that people were talking about me gaining a new audience. And I say, what about the audience that stood behind me all the way up to this point? I said, I can't overlook them. I'd be overlooking myself too. You know, I said, these people want to hear my history, and that is part of my history. And so if the other guys wanted to play electronics and stuff like that, I said, y'all can do that. But the only thing that ain't electronic is my voice and my spirit. I say, and that's leading the way, and it gives y'all room to follow.
Do you like this new audience that's getting on board the Bobby Womack train?
I tell you what, I don't even look that deep to say, there's a young person. Oh, no, well, she's here. You know, I don't have time to think of that. I just think about me being in a special place that I only feel comfortable with. So I don't know. It's other people tell me, you know, you had the old heads out there, and that's me. And then you had some kids that were teenagers. I just think that they all hear the same message. You know, the old heads go farther with it. They're accustomed to it. But the new kids are learning what life means. What a blessing.
I can't think of a more appropriate way to end the programme. Some thanks. First and foremost, Bobby, my thanks to you. And, of course, to Mike Vitti for writing and producing this programme. It's been 18 months in the making. So let's leave you with this Womack track, the very well titled, Where There's a Will, There's a Way.
She needs me, but oh, that's okay. She know I'll always be around for her to lean on any old way. Oh, I know her intentions, baby, yes, intentions. And she means well when she says she'll remain. Oh, then she says she will. I do believe she'll find a way. To get all the things she needs from me. But wait a minute, I love to do the words I use. Don't you know that you can get all that you never need? Ooh, baby, oh, I know her intentions, baby, yes, intentions. And she means well when she says she'll remain. Oh, let she say she will. Oh, if my baby says she will. Ooh, let my baby say she will. If my baby says she will. I do believe if my baby says she will. I do believe she'll find a way. When there's a will, there's a way. When there's a go, there's a stay.
There has been a will, there has been a way. The great Bobby Womack.